Hello everyone, I am Kgothatso Ngako and I'm building out Machankura, right? And I consider myself a catalyst because I would like to see the acceleration of Bitcoin adoption across the African continent. Right? And yeah, so I basically do a lot of stuff that I think would help the adoption of Bitcoin across the African continent, Machankura being one of them. But the other one, while I still wait for my slides to start showing, the other one is actually a project that translates Bitcoin literature into African languages called Exonumia. And yeah, so it's Exonumia.Africa. And now you could see some few articles, some few books we've translated into Swahili, Zulu, Igbo, all these different languages. And yeah, so the overalls I'm wearing are from a group called Fossil Fuels for Africa. Oh, somebody's talking. So yeah, so Fossil Fuels for Africa is a Kenya-based organization that wants to just stop toil, right? So toil is when you're working harder than you have to because you don't have all the things and tools that hydrocarbons allow you to have. So yeah, but let's get into it. Bitcoin, peer-to-peer electronic cash, right? Depending on how you define it, it's different things to different people. The ICOs actually made it into the Merriam-Webster dictionary. ICOs are not a thing anymore, but you know, they used to be a thing. For me, Bitcoin is many different things, but it's a way to send value digitally. It's a way to store value digitally, medium of exchange, unit of account for other people. And you could do whatever you feel like with it because it's open source, right? And some people see it as a tool for sovereignty, right? So a lot of people in the space also read the book The Sovereign Individual, which I think is missing the mark because sovereigns are never individuals but collectives, right? Being sovereigns means when you die, the people who still are living behind, or the people you leave behind, will not have to pay inheritance tax. Same way that the Queen of England died and her family didn't have to pay inheritance tax because they are actual sovereigns, right? And the other thing, you don't become a sovereign individually. You have to have a dynasty. Somebody after you needs to keep the sovereignty going. And yeah, so sovereignty, all about the collective, and a lot of Bitcoiners are actually working very hard to make sure that the ones after them get to be sovereigns, even though they may not live the lives of sovereign. And if you're not sovereign, you are usually subjugated, right? So this could come in many shapes and forms. For most of us, it comes in inflation. The cost of living keeps going higher and higher. So what do you do to not be subjugated? You enforce your sovereignty, right? Or you use Bitcoin, which is one of my favorite things to use. And if you fail to defend yourself, something like this would happen, right? This picture is from Operation Baby Lift. So I invite you guys to Google what Operation Baby Lift is. It's actually one of the worst things that the American government does whenever it invades a country. And yeah, now we also have what's happening in Palestine with the genocide, right? And you know, a lot of weird things are happening there. As a South African, I see a person like Elon Musk defend Israel, and well, it kind of makes sense because you know, South Africa used to be an apartheid state. Israel is currently an apartheid state. And Elon Musk grew up in apartheid South Africa and left during the years that apartheid ended in South Africa to come to America, right? So the other thing is America actually used to consider the South African government, ANC, the leading political party in South Africa, as a terrorist organization until 2008. Right? South African apartheid ended in 1993, and through all those years, South African ANC members actually needed a waiver to come into America, Nelson Mandela included. And Nelson Mandela died in 2013, so for most of his life, as a political figure, he was considered a terrorist by the American government. So yeah, if you want to be sovereign, if you don't want to be subjugated, you have to be ready for some serious opposition, right? And all of these are reasons why I think Bitcoin is important. I think we should all try to promote Bitcoin in our own communities, right? And yeah, as I was trying to promote Bitcoin in my community, one thing that I was gunning for was prosperity, right? I'd like to see people saving up for the things they want to build, the houses they want to build, the places they want to go, saving up for their kids' education, whatever they want to do with their Bitcoin. And I feel like Bitcoin is a tool for that. And I also feel like entrepreneurs who use Bitcoin as a tool would usually do better than entrepreneurs who don't, right? So, yeah. One of the biggest problems in Africa is that only 30% of the population has internet access, right? So a payment requires both the sender and the receiver to have the ability to send or receive the payment, right? If I'm sending you money, you have to believe that you'll be able to spend it later, right? Or at least spend it after the transaction goes through. So if you don't have the ability, you are not likely to want to accept the form of payment. And yeah, so this was one big problem I faced when trying to get people to accept Bitcoin in my township where I grew up in Mamelodi, because not everyone had internet access. So what I did is set up a Wi-Fi hotspot and it connect to my Wi-Fi hotspot. And then I got presented with another problem, which is not everyone has flagship smartphone, right? An Android, Google Pixel, or iPhone. So the Android devices they have usually run out of space real quick, right? And try convincing somebody to delete Instagram so that they could install your app. That is not going to happen, right? So most of the people in Africa actually use dumb phones. We call them feature phones in South Africa. So these are the challenges I had to solve: internet, storage, and dumb phones. So what do you build? I chose to build Machankura. And Machankura is actually a slang term used to refer to money, right? We use words like klipa, mita, gori, all these different words to refer to money. And yeah, Machankura is one of them. It does not belong to any language in South Africa per se, but when you're in South Africa and say, hey, Machankura, they'll usually know what you're talking about. So, yeah, this company, very important company, is called Azteco. Right? And why it's important, they are pretty much the only company who would allow a person without internet access to acquire their first Bitcoin. Right? A person without internet access is not going to go to an exchange and buy Bitcoin because they don't have internet access. They cannot upload all the KYC documents required. So they allow these people to go to the corner store and then buy a voucher, and it's almost like buying airtime. Airtime is what you do to top up your phone credits, right? And also, if you do not have a QR code scanner, they also give you a 16-digit code that you can input in your phone to actually top up your Bitcoin. And we fully integrated with Azteco, beautiful company. I love the work that they're doing. Their focus is consumer-based Bitcoin, right? So they want to meet the consumer where the consumer is and not where the regulator is, because, you know, the regulator wants very different things from the consumer. And the other beautiful company is called Bitrefill. Bitrefuel's mission statement is live on Bitcoin. Of course, they say live on crypto, but I'm going to say live on Bitcoin. Because now you've onboarded somebody to Bitcoin, so what are they going to do? They're going to have to spend their Bitcoin. Otherwise, they're going to have to off-ramp their Bitcoin. And Bitrefill does this wonderful thing where they give you vouchers for your Bitcoin. And whether or not the company you want to make use of accepts Bitcoin, it doesn't matter, because Bitrefill will get you a voucher and a gift card that works for that company. Here's a Uber voucher that you could load up on your Uber app that I paid for using Bitcoin over Lightning as well, right? And yeah, first intermission. This guy is called Frieza, right? If you don't watch Dragon Ball Z, you understand, right? But Frieza is effectively one of the best characters in the Dragon Ball universe, right? And his premise is he's a colonizer. But instead of colonizing people himself, he goes after the strongest fighters in the universe, beats them up, and tells them, yo, please colonize this planet for me, right? And if you do his bidding for him, you and Frieza will not have a problem. But if you don't do his bidding, you are gonna have serious problems, right? And yeah, with in the Dragon Ball show, what we saw is Frieza ended up blowing up planet Vegeta. Oh, yeah, I think King Vegeta, yeah. Planet Vegeta, and that was the end of that. So, talking about colonizers, here's a picture for you. Corporate needs you to find the difference between this picture and that picture. Right? Come and get it. And Executive Order 6102. What is the difference? Okay, you have some time to think about it. I'll take some questions at the end. But effectively, they are the same picture. And so what happens is you need to be a business that doesn't suffer from whatever the government wants you to do. As a business, you want to make your customers happy. And what your customers want and what the government wants may not be related. So what we are seeing now is a lot of regulations are getting in the way of what the business wants to do and what the customer wants and what the government wants. Right? So this usually happens if you're a custodial service like Machankura, which is a custodial service like Wallet of Satoshi. And what we are seeing today, a lot of companies are choosing not to have American customers because it's a headache having an American customer. The American government might come for you, right? Frieza might come for you. So it's best not to have an American customer because then you don't have to worry about Frieza anymore, right? But if you're a custodial service, even if you are not in America or a country like America that wants to come after businesses, is going to be a hard time. So we are working on a version of Machankura that doesn't require us to be a custodial service. And basically, what we want to do is use something called smart cards. Right? Smart cards are small plastic cards that has a built-in microprocessor. If you have a credit card on you, a debit card on you, the chip on that card is called a smart card. It usually stores a private key, and when you tap on payment till, it does some logic in the background to actually make sure that the payment goes through, right? So we could use the chip to actually sign Bitcoin transactions. If you go to one of the booths on this side, you'll see a group called Satoshi. Right? Satoshi, but Satochip. They actually do the similar thing with smart cards, but they use them as Bitcoin hardware wallets. Right? And so the funny thing is that SIM cards are also smart cards. So you could effectively run the same Bitcoin hardware wallet on your SIM card because the SIM card understands smart card technology. It can be programmed in Java card, which is the programming language that smart cards can be programmed in. So what we are now experiencing is a problem of how do you get blockchain data on this SIM card. Right? So blockchain data is either the UTXO that you own, that you can sign, or the partially signed Bitcoin transaction that you should sign so that a Bitcoin transaction can be broadcasted. Right? So what we are seeing is the best option is SMS. Obviously, yeah. A SIM card can speak in SMS language, whatever else. You could also have binary SMS, which can be triggered on the SIM card as soon as it arrives. So the SIM card would know, oh, this is a binary SMS, let me decode it. And depending on what the contents are, I will ask the user for verification, whatever else, a PIN, whatever else, and it will work programmatically. And you can also encrypt the SMS if you do not want the telecom to see what you're sending the SIM card, right? And only the SIM card will be able to decode what's on the SMS or the encrypted SMS. So yeah, the issue though is for you to program this logic, you'd either have to be a telecom or have privileged access to the SIM card or know what the private key of the SIM card is. So since we are not a telecom, we're just software developers and Bitcoiners with a passion. What we do is make use of this beautiful company known as Tysys, right? So Tysys is a Taiwanese-based company that basically designs a chip called the SIM overlay. And what the SIM overlay does is it's so thin, you can put it on top of your normal SIM card, and it can add more logic to your normal SIM card that wasn't there. And so you can then develop on this fin chip that in a way that you wouldn't have been able to develop without the privileged access that the telecom has. And so now your SIM card gets put back into your phone, and then now you have two applications. The normal SIM card from the telecom, which provides you with SMS technology and SMS connections, well, internet connection as well. And then this, which then has all the Bitcoin logic that you need on your SIM card for you to send and receive Bitcoin. Right? And yeah, so with this, we would effectively achieve Super Saiyan, but for Bitcoin. Right? And the reason is there is a serious need to achieve Super Saiyan. And for me, Super Saiyan is when anyone in the world who actually wants to send or receive Bitcoin has the ability to send or receive Bitcoin in a secure, integral fashion. Right? So, yeah, but the other thing, and this is a bigger problem than the technical side, how do you communicate Bitcoin to people who do not already use it? So I feel a lot of companies are stuck in there's this market of Bitcoiners in the world that we could get business from, forgetting that a vast majority of people in the world have not used Bitcoin yet. So let's say a person or a company is technically capable to bring people, to bring Bitcoin to all the people in the world. What message do they come with to these people? Right? So this is where I think other things are more important. Like, I think the work that Margaret Wade is very important. She preaches prosperity for Africa, and she thinks that entrepreneurs are how Africa breaks the chains, or how the sleeping giant wakes up, right? And the other work that I think is important is work that Bitcoin Beach in El Salvador is doing, building Bitcoin circular economies. Like, can a community actually run on Bitcoin, right? And community, very important. You cannot be a sovereign individual, right? Sovereignty is about, if somebody kills you, who's going to come and revenge your death? Right? And Bitcoin circular economy is great because community is one of the best ways to achieve sovereignty as a community, as a collective. And the other thing I mentioned earlier, with Bitcoin Beach, the other project is Bitcoin Ekasi, which is a South African-based project in Mossel Bay. So if you're ever in South Africa and you want to see something like Bitcoin Beach, but you, of course, not in El Salvador, Bitcoin Ekasi is one great project. It teaches kids how to surf, to keep them off the streets, keep them out of gangs, similar to Bitcoin Beach, but then it's in South Africa, So if you're ever in South Africa, please come through. We are going to have a conference in Cape Town next year, January 25. So if you want to see more work that we are doing in South Africa, please come through. And any questions? Okay, cool. So, yeah, let me rant for like 1 more minute, right? So, if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. And yeah, so this is the logo for Machankura. 833.mobi is the domain. And I designed the logo. I love this logo very much because it shaped my own thinking on the project, right? Initially, I was in the same mindset as everyone. Bitcoin is the internet of money. But Bitcoin is a digital network. Bitcoin doesn't care about the internet. Bitcoin doesn't know about the internet. The internet is just the medium, right? And yeah, there's a saying I used to say, which is the medium is not the message, right? So, well, you probably heard somebody say the medium is the message or something like that. But yeah, the medium is not the message in this case because the message is Bitcoin. And as long as you can get Bitcoin transmitted through any medium possible and decoded and encoded in any medium possible, you can transmit Bitcoin. And this logo reiterated that for me because, one, it's like the old telephone logo in the center there, right? And it reminded me that, in Africa, we've had digital payments for the past decade. Around the same time Bitcoin was made, 2008, M-Pesa was made in Kenya, right? And within a year or two, M-Pesa had 1 million users. And so it's a question of what did M-Pesa get right that a lot of us Bitcoin companies are not getting right? Because very few Bitcoin companies are currently able to replicate that user growth. My favorite wallets are all sitting on 50,000 users or 50,000 downloads or 100,000 downloads. This would be Phoenix Wallet and Wallet of Satoshi. So the question is, what are Bitcoin wallets today supposed to get right so that they unlock the next billion users, not just million? Like Africa has 1.8 billion people. So what can we do to actually unlock all of those users and get them on a Bitcoin standard? Yeah, and that is me. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you have a great day. And yeah, thank you. I'm going to have a workshop downstairs, level 1, room 107, I think, or 101. And yeah, if you'd like to see some of the technical side of the Java code stuff, I have brought the chips with me. Feel free to come through to the workshop. And yeah, we're going to have fun at 4 o'clock. Have a good day.